And take one. BFM 89.9. Good morning. I'm Nadia, Hassan, and welcome to your morning headlines. You know what's funny about today's morning headlines? They're all telling you about tomorrow. I mean, they're today's headlines, but they're actually concerning tomorrow. The main thing is tomorrow's National Day of Mourning, and all the papers cover that to somewhat degree. Closure for 20 is how NST kind of frames it. Talks about how the remains of 20 Malaysians who died in the MH17 tragedy will return home. A lot of the papers, bits and pieces, do detail what's happening on the National Day of Mourning. But of course, everybody tries to find different angles. NST's unique angle is about one victim having held back. Apparently, his body has traces of shrapnel, which could help with the investigation. But regardless, they talk about the format for tomorrow. We're going to observe definitely a minute of silence. When it's going to happen, we're not really sure. But Star uses 24-like graphics talking about how it's going to be anytime between 10:45 to 11:30. Some reports say 12:45 to 11:15. But they've actually put places where they're going to observe the minute silence. Talking about the Bangunan Sultan Abdul Samad in KL, KLIA, KLI2, Penang Bridge, the CIQ Customs. Now, apparently, according to these reports, especially the one here in like Malay Mail, which has a big clock in case you're not sure of the time, basically, everything's going to stop. It's going to be like that W.H. Auden poem, you know, Stop All the Clocks. Basically, it's going to be something along those lines. Apparently, all traffic's going to stop and everything like that. I mean, of course, it's a very sad tragedy. All our hearts go out. We feel it. The whole nation feels it. But it also makes you wonder, right, the logistics of it. Is it possible to stop traffic at all times? I mean, planes landing, I mean, taking off, yes, you can stop. Landing, I'm not so sure. It makes you wonder, right? I mean, it's like, can they actually really stop? We'll see tomorrow. The Sun goes on the other angle, talking about how a couple is charged, talking about MH370, because, you know, let's not forget that plane. The mystery of that plane is still not resolved, and it's going to probably be one of the biggest mysteries, I think, in aviation history. You know, Sharan wondered, MH17, because that had a closure. MH370 is still such an open book, although, you know, it's hard to think whether anybody survived, but still saying that, you know, this story's on it, talking about how a couple is charged, and rightfully so. What they did was a bank officer and her husband pled not guilty to the Sessions Court yesterday to multiple charges involving illegal transfer and withdrawal of money, and this is not a small amount, by the way. Oh, that's over 110,000 from those missing from Malaysia Airlines flight MH370. Of course, they pled not guilty. They've gone in court, but if it's true, then of course they should be sent to jail, because that's terrible. Not only do you like siphon money out of people who are gone, you give false hope to their families. They're like, oh, the money's gone. Maybe they're using it. Yes, exactly. Especially for a case that's still open. The Malay headlines go with Tafakur Seminit. That's our word of the day today, Tafakur, which literally means reflection. So it gives a minute for people to reflect about it. They've done the whole social media thing where they've actually sort of polled people from Twitter, Facebook, how they feel they're going to do the minute of silence. The thing is, right, it is a National Day of Mourning, and all of us will do it in very different ways. Minute of silence is fine, but you know, all this whole thing about stopping, I think a lot of people will still question that. And now there is other news in the papers. Really, there is other news in the papers. Sinar goes with Kedekut Demi Rakyat, meaning cheap for the people. They have an interview, actually. I mean, it's the ongoing MB Selangor saga. Of course, we've come to the tail end conclusion of it, but a past ESCO actually praised, you know, Abdul Khalid Ibrahim, because there were some people who did like him. I mean, they did like his policies. They did like how he ran. And it's true. You know, talking about Kedekut Demi Rakyat, I mean, if he actually saved money and spent it properly in the dissemination of it, it's not a bad thing to be thrifty. We'd rather have that than him spending it willy-nilly. And there's still also responses from other people about him as well in the Star. And like I said, there's other support as well. Utusan goes with 12 NGOs actually still support him. So yeah, he's not completely alone in the corner. And then there's a professor that the Star quote saying that his shoddy treatment was disheartening. Okay, that's another way of kind of looking at it. And yeah, so he says that it was disheartening that Khalid was being treated shoddily by PKR despite his good performance as Selangor MB. Of course, some will argue. But yeah, some people are definitely rising up in Khalid's corner. Before we move on to Harian Metro, there's one little headline that's actually, funnily enough, not on the front of the Metro, and it's in the front of the Sun. Talks about how a son assaults his drunken mum after a porn show. So this little, well, salacious tidbit talks about a boy who, he was 15, he saw naughty videos, and then basically his mother passed home drunk, and, you know, he just didn't see straight, I suppose. And then, you know, on assaults, and then there's charges being brought up. I mean, it's not a nice story overall, but you know what's funny? It's actually in almost all the papers. All the English papers, in some page 4 or 7 or whatever, still have this story. But of course, the one paper where you think they'd actually take the front of it didn't, which is Harian Metro talking again about one together in reflection. So yeah, very somber note from a very tabloidy paper. That's it for me. I'm Nadia Hassan, and this has been your morning headlines on BFM 89.9.